Are there any rituals in relation to the birth of the Prophet ﷺ? One of the most things that is obligatory in our faith is to love the Prophet ﷺ. In fact, a person cannot be Muslim unless they love the Prophet ﷺ. Everything about him and his guidance and his practice and what he taught us, we have to love it as believers. Especially what is related to the life of the Nabi ﷺ, and particularly his birth, is something that brings joy and love in the heart of every believer who loves the Prophet ﷺ even than their own family. As regard to the rituals of having any kind of celebratory form of gatherings in regards to the life of the Prophet ﷺ and his birth, this is something which the scholars actually disagreed upon. Many great scholars in Islam said that it was okay, and many great scholars in Islam said that it was not okay. What is not okay though is that we make the love of the Prophet ﷺ something that brings hatred between us. And this is something that unfortunately has spread in our communities, where we actually start to fight over how we should love a Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And this is something that goes completely against the entire tradition of Islam, that these scholars, even though they disagreed over holding rituals, celebratory gatherings, they never made it a point to hate one another over this particular aspect of Islam. In fact, my own teachers in Medina, you would have some that would have gatherings which they would remember the Prophet ﷺ. And these included singing the praises of the Prophet ﷺ, and to recite the Quran, and to hold gatherings of remembering the Prophet ﷺ's life and biography, and to hold not only one particular day, but for example, any time which remarked the day of the Prophet ﷺ's birth in general, in the month of Rabi al-Awwal, and other scholars who said that we remember the Prophet ﷺ in general without holding a particular day of remembrance. And this disagreement amongst these great scholars of Islam should not make us hate one another. In fact, it should make us celebrate that diversity by caring and sharing in that love of the Prophet ﷺ. In fact, one of the greatest scholars, modern day scholars, he concluded his answer to this question by saying, wouldn't you, if you had a loved one, remember and reflect over them any time that you remembered a memorable event or moment in their life, or particular place that you were with them, or a time that you were with them? Of course you would. Similarly with the Prophet ﷺ, you would remember him in all moments, and every time in his life. When the Battle of Badr took place, for example, in the month of Ramadan, the conquest of Mecca that took place in Ramadan, the passing of his wife Khadija radiallahu anha that took place in Ramadan, the death of Fatima radiallahu anha that took place in Ramadan. What about his birth? What about his passing, which also took place in the Rabi al-Awwal? Commemorating the love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam by studying him, and most importantly, implementing what he told us to, and to follow that love with practicing what he brought us. And that is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, implementing the ayah of the Quran, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him by saying, say, if you love me, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the ayah in Surah Al Imran, say to them, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you love me, then obey me, follow me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you and he will love you. And how did he do that? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that the best way that one can come closer to their Lord is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you come closer to me by doing what I have obligated on you. And then you do what's optional until you come closer to me, and come closer to me until I love you. Then I announce my love to the heavens and the earth until all of creation loves you because of the Creator's love to you. And part of that love is love of a Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and not hatred towards the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This question, undoubtedly, is a disagreement in the ummah, in the tradition, but is a disagreement which we welcome the diversity and love amongst one another for the mutual love of our beloved alayhi salatu wasalam.